I wonder if Eagles fans are still high on Chip Kelly. I wonder if the NFL media still has a love affair with Chip Kelly. Now, don't get me wrong. When Chip Kelly came from Oregon to the NFL, I was hoping in some ways that he was going to shake the NFL to its core, to its foundation. I was hoping that he was going to bring something new, something different to the NFL, a different way, a different style, and that it would ultimately succeed. I really, really did. And you got to say, to be fair to Chip Kelly, is that in the first 2 years, they did some good things in Philadelphia. He took them from being the really bad team they were at the tail end of Andy Reid's run to in 2013. They have a winning record. They make it to the playoffs by winning the NFC East, beating the Cowboys in that Week 17 game. Then they turn around in 2014. Yes, they lost Foles for half the year. They were riding with Sanchez. They missed the playoffs, but they still went 10-6. While they weren't a great team, they still found a way to have back-to-back seasons with a winning record and seemed poised to maybe perhaps take a step forward in 2015. Well, then something happened crazy along the way. Chip Kelly won the big power struggle within the organization, and he was given the major personnel power. And let's look at what he did. And in fact, you have to go back to after the 2013 season, that offseason before 2014, to see where Chip Kelly was really starting to have his influence. He got Deshaun Jackson cut because he didn't want him in the locker room anymore. Then this offseason, he allows Jeremy Maclin to go to Kansas City in free agency. He trades Nick Foles and better draft picks for Sam Bradford and worse draft picks. He trades LaShawn McCoy for Kiko Alonso. He ultimately cuts Trent Cole. He cuts Evan Mathis. He gives Byron Maxwell big money to be their number one corner. He doesn't pull off the deal ultimately to get Marcus Mariota in the draft. He signs DeMarco Murray to a big, huge contract away from the Philadelphia Eagles, then drafts Nelson Aguilar in the first round. Now, when you look at those moves, all this movement, all this action, it's like the Madden Team Dynasty mode comes to life, and fans and media are all up in arms, and they're talking about how great this is, or they're just at least buzzing about it. They're wondering what's going to come next. And I think a lot of people foolishly thought that Chip Kelly was doing good things, and that this was going to make a major difference, and the Eagles were going to become even bigger players, not only in the NFC East, by God, they were going to take down them Cowboys, but they were going to become contenders in the NFC. And instead, let's take a look at what actually happened. What Chip Kelly has done to this Eagles organization. In the past 2 off seasons, you've lost your best 2 wide receivers in Jackson and Maclin and got nothing in return for them. You traded a younger, less expensive quarterback who's a better system fit, along with high draft picks, to the Rams for a more injury-prone, older, much more expensive, poorer system fit quarterback and worse draft picks with Sam Bradford. Does that make any fucking sense? They gave up a younger, cheaper option who's a better system fit for an older, more injury-prone, poorer system fit. And this is supposed to be a good thing? They traded LaShawn McCoy, who was a solid system fit, not a great one, but a solid one at least with what they did in Philadelphia with his skills, for a linebacker with knee problems, a guy who has torn both the ACL in his right knee and his left knee, and that's supposed to be a really good move. And imagine that. While McCoy hasn't really shocked the world in Buffalo by any stretch of the imagination, Kiko Alonso now, of course, is dealing with a major knee injury. Imagine that. Then, on top of that, with all the salary cap savings that came from that move of trading McCoy for Kiko Alonso, then they sit there and trade for DeMarco Murray. They give big-time money to a guy who only had one truly great year behind easily the best run-blocking offensive line in the National Football League. He cuts Trent Cole and Evan Mathis, 2 veterans with respect, 2 still solid players, for nothing without having suitable replacements in-house ready to go. He drafted, for Christ's sakes, a USC wide receiver in the top 20. Again, I will emphasize a USC wide receiver in the top 20, in part to make up for the fact that he just allowed the top 2 receiving options over the past 2 seasons in Jackson and Maclin to walk away in free agency for nothing. But it goes beyond that. Let's look at what we've actually done based off of these moves and based off of the way this team is constructed. He took last year's second-round pick Jordan Matthews, who had a good rookie year and seemed poised for a really, really good year this year, and made him less of a factor. He took starting tight end Zach Ertz, who had a nice season last year for Chip Kelly in that offense, and made him less of a factor. He's taken his first-round pick in Nelson Aguilar, a guy that's supposed to have opportunities, that's supposed to have playing time, and has given him that, and still found a way to make him a non-factor whatsoever. It's one thing to allow Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin to leave for nothing, even though it seems kind of ridiculous because of the nature of the salary cap environment in today's NFL. You replace him with a first-round wide receiver. You would think you would want to deploy that first-round wide receiver in ways that gets him involved in ways that seem to maximize his strengths, hide his deficiencies, and Chip Kelly seems to want to do the exact opposite. He just doesn't want to use the guy fucking at all. He's taken DeMarco Murray and made him even more of a non-factor. And what's even more ridiculous about this is the fact that you trade away LaShawn McCoy in part two, give yourself big salary cap savings. Then all the while, what you've done is you've taken DeMarco Murray and tried to fit him into your offense instead of tooling your offense around DeMarco Murray and what he does well. You take a guy that runs better out of more traditional power sets and try to make him a spread option running back. Does that seem like a bad idea? You gave him almost 3 times the amount of money that you did for Ryan Matthews, and Ryan Matthews is clearly the much better system fit based off of what you're doing with that Eagles offense. Why? This is similar to what the Seahawks did with the trade for Jimmy Graham, the Dolphins did with the Ndamukong Suh. Why would you pay big money to DeMarco Murray and not utilize DeMarco Murray in the ways that are best for DeMarco Murray that can ultimately be the best for your team? It makes absolutely no fucking sense. How can you take the league's leading rusher last year and make him a complete non-factor? That's ridiculous. Also, they gave Byron Maxwell a clear-cut number 2 corner and an average one at that in Seattle, playing with all that talent he had around him on the defensive side of the ball, in particular in that Legion of Boom secondary. They gave him number 1 corner money when he was a mediocre number 2 corner. So, of course, Byron Maxwell comes in, tries to line up as a number 1 corner, and he's getting rocked, he's getting shit pushed, and he's getting torched. You know what they're going to start calling him? Seriously? You're going to start calling him Toast. He's getting toasted by every fucking buddy. Who the fuck thinks it's a good idea to give a mediocre number 2 corners number 1 corner money and expect him to play like a number 1 corner? And then, let's come back to this fact. This dumb dick traded for Sam Bradford. This guy thought that Sam Bradford would get him closer to being a championship contender than Nick fucking Foles did. Who in the bluest of blue fucks thinks that Sam Bradford is going to get you anywhere close to a championship? So you bring in Sam Bradford. He's a bad system fit. You don't do really anything to change your system to try and incorporate Sam Bradford better and put him in better situations, therefore still keeping him a bad fit, meaning that it fucks up with the rhythm of all areas of your freaking Eagles offense that you so love, and all the while you're spending more money on Sam Bradford than you would have had to for Nick Foles, and you've also given up premium draft picks to get Sam Bradford because you're fucking stupid. And all the while, the interior of that offensive line, because they cut Evan Mathis, they decide to draft a wide receiver at number 20. They decide to spend this splashy big money on guys like DeMarco Murray and Ryan Matthews and Byron Maxwell. The interior of that offensive line is doo-doo. Like worse than the Seahawks' interior offensive line. That's how doo-doo it is. You've got a pair of guards that frankly have no business starting for any fucking NFL team, let alone a team that's supposed to be good on the interior of their offensive line. And what's happening? The Seahawks' pass protection sucks, their run blocking sucks, and all elements of their offense frankly suck. So when you look at these moves, I mean, I know the certain elements of fans love Chip Kelly, and the media in large part has loved Chip Kelly and love to talk about Chip Kelly. So while you get some people that are honest about it, a lot of people still try to live in this kind of alternate universe bubble. But when you look at all of these moves, he traded Nick Foles for Sam Bradford. He traded away LaShawn McCoy for a linebacker with bad knees that, oh, by the way, has hurt his knee yet again, and to give even more money to a running back who was even worse system fit, paying number 1 corner money to a mediocre number 2 corner, allowed his top 2 wide receivers the past 2 years to leave for absolutely nothing, made several guys that made big strides in their career in 2014 to regress significantly in 2015 because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, making them even less of factors. How could you not think that Chip Kelly is a moron? How in the hell can you not think Chip Kelly is a joke? What's resulted with this product on the field for the Eagles the first 4 games of 2015? Well, they're 1-3. And while some Eagles fans could still realistically cling to the hopes that maybe this team turns it around just a little bit, and maybe the NFC East is just bad enough where the Eagles can toil away, and if they turn it on, figure it out at any stretch of time, they'll still be able to find a way to win the division. That is true. But I don't see how that's going to happen at this point in time, frankly. You're talking about a team that can't run the ball, that doesn't make nearly the same amount of big plays in the passing game or the running game that they have the past couple of seasons. They don't score enough points this year, in part because they can't run the ball, they can't pass protect, because Sam Bradford stinks and is even worse fit in their damn offense. And oh, by the way, they're all-time worst in terms of their average time of possession, meaning they hold the ball for just over 22 minutes a game, meaning they're putting their defense on the field for almost 40 minutes a game. And what happens is that Eagles defense has to play so much that even while at moments they have tried to play well, eventually they get worn down, and that means they get shredded in the air. You're talking about a team, again, that spends almost 40 minutes on the field, a defense that lacks depth at all 3 levels, that doesn't nearly have the depth that would be able to justify spending almost 40 damn minutes on the field in a game. That also, because they're so tired and because they lack depth, not only do they get shredded in the air, because their secondary is doo-doo, but they generate little pass rush, which most certainly doesn't help the fact that their secondary is doo-doo. A team that has a defense that's on the field for way too long, that gives up far too many yards, especially in the passing game, combined with an offense that can't control the clock, that doesn't make big plays, that doesn't score nearly enough points, that keeps putting the defense on the field. This is a 5-11, 6-10 team if I've ever seen it. It's one thing to make changes when you're a 10-6 type of team and recognizing that, hey, we're at a certain level, but we're never going to get to that next level. And if we're not going to get to that next level, then we need to retool and rethink what we're doing to try and get to that next level. I understand that. More teams need to understand that sometimes, that just because they make the playoffs, that's not an indication of them being really, frankly, anywhere close to a championship contending team. And finishing 8-8, 9-7, 10-6 doesn't mean you're anywhere close, and it doesn't mean that you're really doing anything good. But for Christ's sakes, if you're going to make these moves, then you best know what the fuck you're doing. This is blowing up quickly in the faces of the Philadelphia Eagles organization and their fans, and at least from an organization standpoint, they deserve it. You asked for it. You allowed it to happen. You made it possible. Now you need to reap what you sow. Chip Kelly is burying this organization. And if shit doesn't change soon, it could set this organization back for years. I mean, the guy had one job ultimately to do in this offseason. Let's not twist it. Let's not kid ourselves. His one job was to find a way to move up from number 20 in the draft to number 2 overall to get his hands on his golden child, Marcus fucking Mariota. And all the talk about, well, how much of a price you have to pay in future picks. Frankly, who gives a fuck? Because based off of what Chip Kelly is doing, what makes you think that he'd be doing anything good with those picks any damn ways? At least you could sit there instead of wasting a bunch of money on Sam Bradford to watch him stink up the fucking joint. You could watch Marcus Mariota actually be able to shine in Chip Kelly's system and maybe be able to get more out of the people around him and say, hey, the Eagles in the future could be a team to fuck with. Instead, everybody's just fucking the Eagles. Including the Eagles. Because nobody's fucked him more than Chip Kelly has fucked him based off of the moves he's made offseason, and in particular the way he's drawn up his offensive game plans through the first 4 games of the 2015 season. I hope everybody understands now. You had all these hopes and dreams for this guy. He's a joke. He's a moron. And trust me, Philly fans, you'll be happy when he's gone. And it can't come soon enough.